Panels, which solution is the best for poverty? Selling your life in a contract for a huge sum of money but only benefiting in the short-term scenario, or fixing the system of society that can benefit both sides, the rich and the poor, so no one should sell their lives? We oppositions believe the latter. But before we get into it, clarifications panels. Firstly, the government failed to characterize the status quo. In fact, the government never even mentioned it or where or how the use of this technology is more likely to happen. So let me explain it, panels. As we all know, the technology to trade your lives here is very advanced. It's not something that you pick up on the side of the road, meaning that technology is more likely to be in a developed country. It's like how the selling and buying organs is mainly in developed countries too. Now, let's understand the status quo of developed countries. Their economic system is mainly capitalist and industrial. This means that the government has next to nothing in terms of supporting the lives of the people. They are forced to fend for themselves, especially the poor. In capitalism, the rich are getting richer while the poor are getting poorer. And combined with the fact that the government has barely any support for the people, for the poor, they are getting more miserable day by day. Now let's talk about another important factor that the government barely mentioned. Who is using this technology? Of course, the usage is not limited to one part of society, but it is clear the people who uses it are mainly the poor. The people who need money to live. The people in capitalistic country who can barely live in the status quo where they are stranded by the government. They have the desire to continue living, but in the current status quo where they are barely taken care of, it's close to impossible. And with that in mind, it's easy to understand why they would sell the years of their lives. Another thing to note is the people who has the ownership of this technology. Because it's an advanced technology, it's clear that the rich are the owner of it. The rich are the owner of it, and they have the rights to use it. Understand, pals, that in capitalism, the elites, the rich, are gonna do everything to get richer, including making things more expensive than they needed to. Scenarios like this are already happening, panels, where people are so desperate that they are selling their organs for a very cheap price that is not the actual worth. Of course, the government mentioned how it is impossible because the procedure is protected. But realize, panel, selling organs is also protected, but cases like this are still happening. The poor are only being used by the rich for money. Another thing that I want to mention is the government said how the procedure is protected. There will be physical and mental health checkups and people will not sell their lives impulsively. But realize, panels, that in the status quo, people are already impulsively taking their own lives. Cases of suicides, especially in developed countries, are in the rise and it's not slowing down. This means that people would still sell their lives impulsively, especially when you can do it while getting money that you can give to your family. Okay, maybe you can't do that in official hospitals or sites where the technology is used, but there's still the dark market. Cases like selling organs for just a smidge amount of money is already happening. So selling the years of your life is happening too. So panels, will you trust a side that can't even understand the status quo or the correct vulnerable actors in this motion? Now, let me give 3 points of rebuttals for the government. One, the first point of rebuttal. They mention how this will open up discussions about value of life and people will not actually enjoy and appreciate their life because they understand the value of it. Let me respond by saying that this is assumptive. The government only explained one side of the coin and did not realize that this will also bring arguments and fights about it, so this means that people will be divisive and they will fight each other. This will create havoc and so much riots in the country. Even if not, what would happen is the poor would only undermine their own lives because they believe that money is much more valuable. And with the fact that there's evil people in the world who will manipulate people into doing so, this is more likely to happen and the poor will sell their lives irrationally and repulsively. Two, second point of rebuttal. They mention how everyone should have the rights of autonomy of their body. Well, this is true. They're being simplistic by mentioning cases in their best case scenario. They mention how the market would be the people who are minority and or the people who are sick. Notice, panel, that the rich who are depressed and the poor who needs money are the main customer here. And it's also important to note that the cause of this poverty or the cause of this depression is irresponsibility and unawareness of the government. Third point of rebuttal. Not only that, but they only explain the benefits and the good things on an individual level, how they have their rights of their own body autonomy, but never explain how it is the best for the world. So their side did not only not understand the status quo, not understand the full picture of the most vulnerable actors, and only picture this motion on an individual level. Can we really trust the judgment of their side that doesn't give the best solution for the world? So with that in mind, let me explain what we, the opposition, believe that instead of letting people buying and selling their lives, we would instead restrict the technology entirely and focus on increasing the quality of life by fixing the root of the problem, the government. This is an evaluation debate, panels. Decide who wins are they who can explain which side is best for the world, and we believe that we win through these two justifications. One, increasing the quality of life, and two, a long-term solution. To my first argument, increasing the quality of life. Panels, on this side, people who use it who use this are those who are poor or in a desperate condition, poverty, sickness, famine, or etc., etc. But realize, panels, that they are in this condition because of the ignorance of the government. They chose to let the people fight for themselves and not help them at all, especially in a capitalistic country, where the poor have no chance to fight against the rich. That's why they're desperate to sell their lives. Look at the status quo, where people are selling their organs to get any kind of money so they can survive. Now, panels, instead of letting them use this technology, we instead give them a chance to opt out by the help of the government. There will be much more help that is given to the poor. Therefore, they wouldn't need to sell their lives, right? Like more workspace, free healthcare, and many other public services. And this too would help the rich, because the many benefits that come, like free healthcare and public services, would also benefit the rich. Not only that, but because of the poor are now gaining money, and their quality of life increase. This means that they will have a stable living condition and they can spend much more money. This means that the rich, who are mass producing products that they sell, will now have a much bigger market, because the poor can now buy that too. So this too would benefit the rich, not only the poor. So this solution would be the best for both sides of the party and for the entire world. Now, this is likely to happen because, one, if government would be more aware of this problem and they will fix it, there would be more help for the people. Therefore, if there were more help, there would be less minority, there would be less poor people, and there would be less sickness in the world. So therefore, 3, the quality of life would be increased, there would be much more people who have money, the market would be bigger, the rich will get much more money because more people are buying. So therefore, this is a very good solution for both sides of the party. What happens in our side, panels, is not only the poor would have a sustainable life that they can enjoy, and they can understand the value of it, because now they understand that your life cannot be valued with money. They would more be appreciative to their lives, and the quality of life would be increased. There would be a bigger market and much more other benefits. Comparatively, what happens on the opposition side, because the government are unaware of the problems, or they are aware but they would not help, the poor would get poorer, and they would only just sell their life irrationally because they need the money. And even if they have the money, they would not be able to sustain this money. Now, this justification is exclusive, panels, because the root of the problem here is the government and their unawareness or their ignorance. Or even if not, they chose to not do it. So this only applies to us, where we would increase the awareness of the government, so they would actually help us and help the people. So this only applies to us as the opposition. Going to my second argument, a long-term solution. Panels, we're talking about the best solution for this world in the long term, and it is clear that by fixing the government and make them aware of the current situation to fix it is clearly the best solution, especially in the long term. In the status quo, people would sell their lives because it's desperate, we all know, but the huge money sum that they get is only momentarily benefiting. They do not know how to preserve money or how to sustain this money in the long run. Of course, they can invest, but they don't have knowledge. They can buy the education for the children. Of course, that too can get the money, but until when? Because their money is not that huge, and education for children is very expensive. Until when do they need to get the money against? Until when will this education until this education the children will get the money until they sell their lives again? That's why the long-term solution applies only to the oppositions, where we would fix the root of the problem, that is the government, comparatively to the government side, where they would just let people sell their lives because the government is too ignorant of the problem. So therefore, that's why we have the right to win this debate. That's all from me. Thank you very much.